Harper Sullivan spotted the little boy standing alone near the fountain in Central Park, his tiny fists clenched and his eyes wide with panic. She dropped her coffee without thinking, the paper cup hitting the pavement with a soft splat as she rushed over. "Hey, sweetheart," she said gently, kneeling down in front of him. "Are you lost?" The boy nodded, blinking fast to keep from crying. "I can't find my daddy." Harper's heart clenched. He couldn't have been older than 5. His dark, curly hair was ruffled, one of his shoelaces was untied, and his little backpack had a bright red dinosaur on it. She glanced around, but there was no adult nearby who looked remotely concerned. "What's your name?" she asked, keeping her voice calm. "Teddy," he sniffled. "Teddy Nolan." "Okay, Teddy, I'm Harper." She offered her hand, and he took it without hesitation. "Let's stay right here by the fountain, okay? Your dad is probably looking everywhere for you." Harper looked around again, scanning for any sign of a frantic parent. The park was buzzing with people's strollers, joggers, dog walkers, but no one seemed to notice the missing child. She pulled her phone out to call the police when a voice behind her stopped her in her tracks. "Teddy?" Harper stood and turned just as a tall man in a tailored black coat came striding across the park lawn. His expression was tight with panic, his steps quick and purposeful. He looked like he'd just stepped out of a magazine, broad shoulders, dark hair pushed back, sharp jawline tense with worry. "Daddy!" The little boy launched himself forward, wrapping his arms around the man's legs. "Oh, thank God," the man breathed, scooping Teddy into his arms. He kissed his son's forehead and held him for a long moment before looking up at Harper. "You found him?" Harper nodded, a little breathless. "He was standing here alone. I didn't want to move him in case you were nearby." The man's eyes met hers. They were ice blue, but not cold, just intense. He looked at her like he was trying to piece her together. "Thank you," he said, his voice lower now, full of something she couldn't name. "Seriously, thank you." "It's okay," she said quickly. Anyone would have done the same." "No," he said. "Most people would have walked right past." Harper shrugged, suddenly shy under his gaze. "I work with kids. I guess I'm hardwired to panic when I see one alone." He shifted Teddy to one arm and reached into his coat pocket. "Please let me do something for you." "A reward or no," she said immediately, holding up her hand. "Really, I don't want anything." He hesitated. "At least let me buy you coffee or lunch, something." She paused. "You don't have to, I want to," he said, and for the first time he smiled just a little. "I'm Zane Nolan." Harper blinked. "You're Teddy's dad," he nodded, "and you just saved me from the worst day of my life." Harper glanced at Teddy, who was now yawning against his father's shoulder. "Coffee then, but only because I left mine back there." Zane gave a soft laugh. "Deal?" They walked side by side down the path, Teddy quietly dozing in Zane's arms. Harper couldn't help but glance at him, tall, polished, powerful but tender with his son. He wasn't wearing a wedding ring, he didn't seem rushed or arrogant like most men in suits. He was calm, kind. And watching her like she was more than just the woman who found his kid, they stopped at a quiet cafe just off the park. Zane ordered for her without hesitation black coffee, 1 sugar. She blinked. "How'd you?" "Lucky guess," he said, handing her the cup. They sat at a corner table, Teddy curled up asleep in a chair beside them, jacket draped over him like a blanket. Harper sipped her drink, uncertain. "I really don't want anything from you," she said softly. "I just wanted to make sure he was safe." Zane leaned back, studying her. "You're not like most people I meet." "Is that a good thing?" "It is." He hesitated, then added, "I run a company, tech. It's a lot, and people usually see me and think money first." She raised an eyebrow. "You're a billionaire." He looked away for a moment. "Yeah, I am." Harper stared at him. "That's a lot." He laughed under his breath. "It is, but you didn't ask for anything. You didn't even hesitate. I was focused on Teddy." "I know." He looked at her again, more serious now. "Harper, I'm not trying to come on strong. I'd really like to see you again." Her heart did a flip. "You don't even know me." "I know enough to want to." She looked down at her coffee. "I don't date billionaires." "Neither do I," he said, and she laughed before she could stop it. He smiled at the sound. The afternoon sun filtered through the window, casting a soft glow over their table. Teddy stirred in his sleep and Zane reached over to adjust his jacket gently. Harper watched him. There was something real under all that polish, something honest and maybe something she wasn't expecting. She stood. I should go. Zane stood too. Can I have your number? She hesitated, then shook her head. If you really want to see me again, you'll figure it out, he grinned. Challenge accepted. As she walked away, Harper felt his eyes on her. And for the first time in a long time, something warm bloomed in her chest. She didn't know it yet, but everything had just changed. 3 days passed before Harper saw him again. She hadn't expected to. People like Zane Nolan didn't just show up twice. Especially not for someone like her, a woman juggling 2 part-time jobs and an unfinished teaching degree. But the universe, apparently, had a wicked sense of humor. The bell above the bookstore door chimed as she balanced a stack of hardcovers in one arm and scribbled return codes on a clipboard with the other. She didn't look up until a shadow stretched across her counter. I didn't take you for someone who'd be hiding behind books, Zane said, his voice a surprising contrast to the quiet hum of the store. Harper froze, pen hovering midair. How did you? I asked Teddy's teacher where you worked. He gave a casual shrug, but there was nothing casual about the way his gaze moved over her face, as if checking to see if she was still real. She lowered the clipboard. And she just gave that information to you. She knows me. He leaned on the counter, lowering his voice just enough to earn her full attention. I fund their reading program. Of course you do. Harper exhaled slowly, setting the clipboard aside. So what are you doing here, Zane? Teddy keeps asking when he can see you again. He didn't blink as he said it, and I figured I owed you a better thank you than a rushed coffee. She narrowed her eyes. That wasn't rushed. It was a start. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, leather-bound book. I found this at an estate auction yesterday, first edition. You mentioned you liked classic children's literature. Her fingers hesitated before taking it. You remembered that? I remember everything you say, he said simply. She opened the book and carefully turned the pages. It was real, old, delicate, and far too expensive. This isn't exactly a casual gesture. I don't do casual, he replied easily. And I don't believe in waiting when I know what I want. She closed the book and met his gaze. What exactly do you want? I want to take you somewhere. Not a date, he added quickly, reading her hesitation. Just time together with Teddy. You don't trust me yet, I get that. So let me show you who I am when I'm not wearing a suit and racing between boardrooms. She studied him. The confidence hadn't changed, but there was something unexpected in his expression and openness that didn't match the polished man who'd stalked across Central Park days ago. You expect me to believe you're just a regular guy underneath all of that? No, he said. I expect you to find out for yourself. Harper bit the inside of her cheek, weighing her options. Where are you thinking? There's a place upstate, a weekend farm we go to sometimes, horses, a lake. No cell service, Teddy loves it. You're inviting me to your private farm? I'm inviting you to spend time with us. No pressure, you sleep in the guest house. Teddy gets to see you again, and I get to prove I'm not just a headline with a wallet. She should have said no. Every part of her life was structured around caution and control. But Zane wasn't asking for a piece of her, he was offering her something rare, space, trust. A glimpse into his world with no strings attached, just the weekend, she said finally. And I bring my own toothbrush, he grinned. Deal? By Friday afternoon, Harper stood at the curb outside her apartment building, duffel bag slung over her shoulder. A sleek black SUV pulled up and the back window lowered. Teddy's face lit up when he saw her. Harper, you're coming, she laughed, opening the door and sliding in beside him. I told you I would. Zane was in the driver's seat, dressed down in a navy Henley and jeans. It was strange how different he looked without a jacket and tie, yet somehow more himself. The drive was quiet at first, with Teddy chatting about his favorite horse and Harper occasionally asking questions about the farm. Zane only spoke when necessary, letting the road and the music fill the silence. But every time they stopped at a light, he looked at her in the rearview mirror. The farm was nestled between 2 hills, surrounded by trees that had just begun to turn gold with the early touch of autumn. The house itself was modest by Billionaire standards: white clapboard, wide porch, and a small stable off to the side. Harper stepped out and breathed in the crisp air. "This doesn't look like I expected." Zane came around the car, grabbing the bags. "That's the point." Teddy bolted toward the house, calling for someone named Maria. A woman in her 50s stepped out onto the porch, wiping her hands on her apron. "She's the one who raised me," Zane explained. "And she doesn't take orders from anyone, including me." Maria gave Harper a once-over as they approached. "You're the one who found my boy's boy." "I guess that's me," Harper said, unsure whether she was about to be hugged or interrogated. Maria nodded approvingly. "Good. He brings home too many people who only see the money. You didn't ask for a thing." "I didn't want anything." "Exactly." Maria turned on her heel. "Come inside. There's hot cider and pie." Harper followed, still unsure what she'd just agreed to be part of. Later that evening, after Teddy had fallen asleep under a blanket by the fireplace, Harper stepped out onto the porch. Zane was already there, leaning against the railing, hands in his pockets. "She likes you," he said without turning. "I wasn't trying to impress her." "That's why you did." She joined him at the railing. "You're different here." "So are you." They stood in silence, the stars above them scattered like diamonds. The night was peaceful, but the air between them buzzed with something unspoken. Zane glanced at her. "Do you ever think about what your life would look like if one moment had gone differently?" She blinked. "All the time, me too." He hesitated. "I didn't mean to fall into this, but I'm glad I did." Harper looked straight ahead. "Let's just see where this goes." "No promises," he nodded. "No pressure." But in the quiet of the night, Harper felt something shift, and it terrified her in the best possible way. The rain came down in steady sheets, drumming against the wide barn roof as Harper crouched beside Teddy in the hay loft, both of them giggling as they built a lopsided fort out of old saddle blankets and straw bales. "Teddy," Harper whispered, peeking over their makeshift wall, "I think the hay monster is coming back." Teddy gasped and dove under the blankets. "We have to hide the treasure." Harper reached for the pinecone trophy they dubbed the treasure and tucked it behind a wooden beam. "Safe," she said. "For now." A creak of boots on the wooden steps below made her freeze. "You two planning a coup in there?" Zane's voice floated up from the lower level. Teddy popped his head out from the blankets. "We're defending the kingdom." Zane's face appeared at the edge of the loft. He was holding 3 mugs, steam curling up from each. "Well then," he said, "I brought peace offerings, hot chocolate with extra marshmallows." Teddy scrambled over and took one eagerly. "You can be our knight." "I was hoping for king," Zane said, handing Harper her mug, "but I'll settle." She accepted the drink, fingers brushing his. His touch was warm and unhurried, but it sent a ripple through her chest she wasn't prepared for. "You two have been up here for hours," he said, sitting beside her on the hay bale. Maria started threatening to send a search party. Harper blew lightly on her mug. "We got caught in the storm." He looked out the barn window at the gray sky. "It'll pass by morning." Teddy climbed into Zane's lap and curled up without hesitation. Zane didn't miss a beat, adjusting his hold so the boy's head rested against his shoulder. "We were talking about dragons," Teddy mumbled. "And Harper said not all monsters are bad." Zane met her eyes over Teddy's head. "She's right." They sat in silence for a while, the 3 of them tucked away in their little corner of the world. Harper watched as Teddy's breathing slowed, his lashes brushing his cheeks. Zane's hand moved rhythmically over his son's back. "He trusts you," Zane said quietly. Harper kept her gaze on the sleeping child. "He's easy to love." "You are too," Zane said, and the words just hung there between them like a gust of wind that unsettled everything. She looked at him then. Really looked. Gone was the man who wore power like armor. Here was someone unguarded, watching her like she was not just a woman who helped his son, but a woman who had unknowingly changed something in him. "Don't," she said softly. "Don't what?" "Don't say things you don't mean." "I've never said anything to you I didn't mean." She opened her mouth, then closed it again. A week ago, she hadn't even known his name. I barely know you, she said. Zane nodded. That's fair. But I want you to. The flicker in his eyes wasn't flirtation. It was something quieter, more dangerous. Intent, Harper stood, setting her mug aside. I should take him inside. I'll carry him, Zane offered. She hesitated, then nodded. He rose easily, lifting the boy into his arms. Teddy didn't stir. Harper followed them down the narrow stairs and across the wet path to the house. Inside, Maria had left a lamp on and folded a blanket on the couch. Zane laid Teddy down gently, covering him. Harper watched from the doorway, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. You make it look easy, she said. He turned to her. It's not, but he's the only thing I've ever been sure about, she nodded slowly. That I understand. He stepped toward her. What are you afraid I'll do? She didn't answer right away. Then, I'm afraid you'll make me believe you. And then vanish. Zane's jaw tightened. I don't start things I don't intend to finish. I told you I don't do casual. That's not my world, she said. I don't know what to do with someone who sends first editions and owns farms with staff. Then don't do anything, he said. Just exist. With me for a while, her voice caught. And what happens when you get bored? He shook his head. That's not going to happen, she stepped back. I need air. Zane didn't follow her as she slipped on her boots and stepped onto the porch. The storm had softened to a drizzle, the sky low and heavy with the scent of wet earth. She braced her hands on the railing and stared out at the dark fields. She hadn't planned on any of this. Not the boy with the dinosaur backpack. Not the man with the guarded smile and two honest eyes. And certainly not this feeling like her carefully controlled life was unraveling thread by thread. The screen door creaked behind her. She didn't turn. You're not just a good father, she said. You're dangerous. Zane joined her at the railing, not touching her. Why? Because you make me want things I've spent my whole life pretending I didn't need. He was silent for a moment. Then, what if I want them too? She looked at him. You don't even know what I want. Then tell me. I want roots. I want a partner who doesn't make me feel like I have to earn their attention. I want safety, but I want fire too. I want someone who sees all the mess and still stays. Zane reached into his coat and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He handed it to her. She opened it slowly. It was a drawing crayon on construction paper. Teddy's handwriting was messy but clear. Me, Daddy, Harper. Our house. Her throat tightened. He made that this morning, Zane said. Didn't show it to anyone, just left it on my desk. She traced the crayon lines with her fingers. He thinks I belong. I do too. The rain picked up again, soft and steady. No thunder, no lightning. Just the kind of rain that made everything green. Zane finally reached for her hand, his palm warm against hers. Stay, he said. This time Harper didn't pull away. Harper stood at the front window, watching as dawn painted silver over the misty hills. Her fingertips rested lightly against the glass, her thoughts still tangled from the night before. The rain had stopped hours ago, but its hush still lingered in the silence of the house. Behind her, the soft creak of floorboards reached her ears. Zane stepped into view barefoot, holding a mug in each hand. I wasn't sure if you'd still be here. She turned toward him slowly. Neither was I. He offered her a mug and she took it, her fingers brushing his. The heat of it grounded her, but her chest still felt unsteady. Maria's making pancakes the size of your head, he said. Teddy's already lobbying for whipped cream. Harper smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. He deserves it. So do you. Zane leaned against the window frame, watching her. You didn't sleep. She didn't answer that. You said you don't start things you don't plan to finish, she said softly. What do you call this? Zane set his mug on the windowsill. I call it the beginning. Harper studied him. You don't know what it's like building your life on sand. Hoping it holds just long enough to catch your breath. I don't, he admitted. But I know what it's like to have everything and realize it means nothing if there's no one to share it with. I built my life on stone, but it's cold without warmth. She looked down at her coffee. You make it sound so simple. It's not, he said. But it's worth it. Harper stepped back from the window. I'm not someone people stay for, Zane. My own father walked out before I could remember his face. My mother spent more time working double shifts than looking me in the eye. I learned to survive on my own. You're not on your own anymore, he said, his tone firm but quiet, and I don't walk away. She met his gaze, searching for fracture lines, for cracks that would give her a reason to run, but there weren't any. He was steady, unflinching. I need to go back today, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. I have shifts and rent, and a life that doesn't come with horses and weekend escapes. Zane nodded. Then I'll drive you. I can take the train. I'm not letting you ride back alone with a duffel bag and a headache full of doubt, he said. You're not a footnote in my life, Harper. You're the turning point. She blinked, her breath catching. I'm not asking you to move in, he added. I'm asking you to let this be real, to give us time. I don't know how to be someone who belongs in your world. Then let's build one that belongs to both of us. Upstairs, Teddy's laugh rang out, followed by the sound of something toppling over. Harper turned toward the stairs instinctively. I'll get him, Zane said, heading toward the kitchen. You take a minute. She sank onto the arm of the couch, trying to make sense of the ache in her chest. It wasn't fear anymore. It was something deeper, something close to longing. An hour later, her bag was in the back of the SUV, and Teddy sat in the booster seat chatting excitedly about a bird he'd seen on the fence post. Zane drove with one hand on the wheel, the other resting near the gearshift, inches from hers. When they reached her apartment, he didn't park and wait. He got out and opened the passenger door for her, then walked around to unbuckle Teddy. I'll carry this up, he said, lifting her bag over his shoulder. You don't have to. I know, he said simply. Inside her building, Harper unlocked the door and stepped into the small space. It smelled faintly of lavender and old books. Zane paused in the entryway, taking it in without comment. Teddy ran to the window and pressed his face to the glass. You can see the park from here. Barely, Harper said. Zane set the bag down beside her worn sofa. This is nice. She gave him a look. You don't have to lie, I'm not. It feels like you. She crossed her arms, suddenly self-conscious. It's temporary. So are a lot of beautiful things, he said. Teddy turned. Can we come back next weekend? Zane crouched to meet his son's eyes. We'll see, but only if we're invited. Harper knelt beside them. Next time, maybe we go to the museum. I hear there's a dinosaur exhibit. Teddy lit up. Yes, as they stood, Harper walked Zane to the door. He glanced back once, watching Teddy flop onto the couch and flip on the old TV. I mean it, he said. I'm not walking away. I still need time, she said. Take it. But I'm not going anywhere, she nodded, and when he leaned forward, he didn't kiss her. He just pressed his forehead gently against hers, their breath mingling for a moment too short to be enough. After he left, Harper sat beside Teddy on the couch. He leaned into her side, content. Is he your boyfriend now? Teddy asked, eyes on the screen. Harper smiled faintly. I don't know, he likes you. A lot. She ruffled his hair. We'll see, kiddo. But that night, as she crawled into bed, she found a note tucked into the pocket of her duffel bag. It was handwritten on thick cream paper, tucked inside the cover of the first edition book he'd given her days before. Whatever world you belong to, I want to be part of it. No suits, no headlines, just us. Tears welled in her eyes, quiet and unexpected. 3 weeks passed, 3 weeks of calls, of late-night walks through the park where Zane would meet her outside her shift with takeout and stories of Teddy's latest adventure. 3 weeks of dinners in her tiny kitchen, of quiet laughter while they did dishes, of kisses at her door that deepened with every visit. It wasn't extravagant. It wasn't grand, and maybe that's why it mattered. Then came the night Zane showed up in a black button-down and jeans, a folded envelope in his hand. Teddy's with Maria, he said before she could ask. She took the envelope. What is this? Just read it. She opened it slowly and pulled out a printed photo. It was the crayon drawing Teddy had made, but cleaned up, professionally scanned, printed on canvas. Below, in Zane's handwriting, were the words, "Let's make this real." She looked up at him, stunned. He stepped closer. I'm not asking for a yes right now. I just want to ask if you could see it. A life that's ours. Simple, messy, real. Her voice broke. I already do. Zane exhaled and reached into his pocket once more. This time it was a small velvet box. No rush, he said. But when you're ready, she didn't let him finish. Because she was already nodding, already stepping into his arms, and when he kissed her, it wasn't about promises or pressure. It was just them. A woman who found a child, a man who found a reason to come home. And a little boy who'd drawn their future before either of them believed it could exist. The scent of salt water and pine drifted through the open balcony doors, the late spring breeze playing with Harper's hair as she stood barefoot in the oversized living room of the lake house. She had moved in 2 weeks ago quietly, without ceremony after Zane had asked if she'd rather wake up next to him instead of next to her alarm clock in a shoebox apartment. Now, her morning coffee sat forgotten on the marble island behind her, her gaze fixed on the water beyond the trees. She wrapped her arms around herself, not in cold but in wonder. This life with him, with Teddy, it didn't feel like something she had stepped into. It felt like something they had built undecorated, unpolished, but real. "Do you regret it?" Zane's voice came from behind her, low and careful, as if he was afraid of the answer. Harper turned. He was leaning on the doorway, barefoot, shirt crumpled, hair still damp from the shower. The light hit his jaw, casting a soft shadow. She hadn't seen him like this in the beginning. Now she saw more than the composed executive. She saw the man who forgot to shave when he was busy reading bedtime stories. The man who woke in the middle of the night just to tuck her closer. "Not even a little," she said. He stepped toward her, pausing just short of touching. "I keep waiting for the day you wake up and realize this isn't enough." "It's more than enough," she said, reaching for his hand. "I didn't need a castle. I just needed someone who wouldn't make me feel like I had to earn being loved." Zane laced his fingers through hers. "You don't. Not with me, never with me." They stood there for a moment, the quiet between them not awkward but full. Then from upstairs, a thump and a loud, "I can't find the other sock," broke the silence. Harper stifled a laugh. "That'll be the third sock emergency this week," Zane groaned. "At this point, I think the dryer is building a shrine." "I'll go," Harper said, already turning, but Zane stopped her. "No," he said. "You've done more than enough this week. You handled the school meeting, the tutoring schedule, and somehow convinced Teddy to eat broccoli. I've got this." She let him go, watching as he bounded up the stairs with the kind of ease that only came from deep familiarity. She returned to the kitchen, retrieved her coffee, and sank onto the plush bar stool. The lake house had once been Zane's weekend escape. Now it was their home. Not because of the walls or the view, but because of the life inside it, the mismatched mugs Harper insisted on using, the chore chart Teddy had made in marker and glitter, the photos they'd taped to the fridge. It was all imperfect, and it was perfect. Zane reappeared 10 minutes later, holding a triumphant Teddy by the hand. The boy was fully dressed except for one blue sock that still didn't match the other. "I give up," Zane said. "Apparently, the sock-eating dryer wins again," Teddy shrugged. "Mismatched is cool now." Harper leaned across the counter and offered him his lunchbox. "You're lucky you're cute." As Zane grabbed his keys, Harper knelt and zipped up Teddy's hoodie. "Be good today." "I always am," he said with a grin that meant precisely the opposite. Zane kissed her temple. "Back by 3, don't do anything productive until then." She waited until the door closed behind them before letting out a long breath. The silence wasn't heavy, it was peaceful, but today there was something else humming beneath it. She walked to the drawer near the fireplace, pulling out the envelope Zane had given her weeks ago. The ring box inside was still unopened, not because she didn't want to say yes, but because he'd told her there was no rush. That when she wore it, he wanted it to be because she was ready to live every day with him, not just love him from beside him. She opened the box slowly now, letting the light catch the delicate band. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't oversized. It was classic, understated, and beautiful. Like he'd chosen it not to impress but to understand her. That afternoon, when Zane and Teddy returned from school, she met them on the porch. Her hands were behind her back. Zane raised an eyebrow. "You've got a secret." "I do," she said. "But it's not a secret I want to keep." Teddy dropped his backpack and ran inside, oblivious. But Zane stayed, watching her. She brought her hand forward. The ring was on her finger. Zane didn't say anything. He just stepped forward and kissed her, not like the first time or the second. This was different. This was the kind of kiss that said, finally. The kind that wrapped around every promise they hadn't dared speak out loud. Later that summer, on the lawn overlooking the lake, they were married beneath a canopy of wildflowers, surrounded by the people who mattered: Maria, Teddy's teacher, Harper's best friend from college, and a few colleagues of Zane's who looked genuinely surprised he was capable of smiling that much. Teddy walked her down the aisle, grinning like he'd just won a lifetime supply of ice cream. Zane didn't give a speech at the reception. Instead, when Harper reached for her glass to toast, he took her hand instead and whispered something in her ear. "You were never just a chapter, Harper. You were the story I didn't know I was waiting to write." She blinked back tears, laughing even as she kissed him. They danced until the sun dipped below the trees and the lanterns flickered to life. Teddy fell asleep in Maria's lap, arms wrapped around a stuffed dinosaur, and Harper rested her head against Zane's chest as they swayed slowly. Alone now on the grass in the weeks that followed, they didn't travel the world or throw lavish parties. They spent their days building forts, planting flowers, and arguing over who made the better pancakes. Zane began working from home more often. Harper finished her degree. Teddy got a puppy and named it Socks, because someone has to find all the lost ones. They were never perfect. But they were everything. And every morning when Harper woke to the sound of laughter downstairs and the scent of coffee she didn't make, she knew she hadn't stumbled into this. She had chosen it. And she would choose it again every single day.